Hey everyone, before we dive in, if you love real life stories about family drama, betrayal, and epic comebacks, please hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. It means the world to me. My mom talked my boyfriend into marrying my sister instead. She looked him dead in the eye and told him, "She's tougher, more solid, the right fit for you." Like I was some fragile afterthought in my own story. The moment I learned the truth, something inside me snapped, so completely it didn't even hurt. It just went quiet. So I packed up, left Boston, my family, and every shattered piece of the old me behind, and started over from zero. Years later, I threw a big, elegant party at my house in Seattle. My family showed up all smiles, acting like nothing had ever happened. But the second they laid eyes on my husband, every single one of them went ghost white, and that's when the real story finally came out. I grew up in one of those houses that looks flawless from the curb, big white columns, perfect hedges, windows glowing cozy every night. But step inside, and it felt fake, like we were all actors in a play written for the neighbors' approval. My mom, Evelyn, was the director of that whole show. My older sister Harper was the star everybody revolved around. Me, I was the kid blended into the wallpaper. Harper never even had to try. People just cleared space for her automatically. Teachers loved her, aunts and uncles gushed over her, and mom basically planned her days around making Harper shine brighter. "She's just got that spark," mom would say, brushing Harper's hair with this proud, dramatic grin. Then she'd glance over at me, ponytail, hoodie, nose in a book, and the smile would disappear. "Emma's the brainy one." Dad would toss out every week like a consolation prize. Mom would sigh. "Yes, but brains don't stick in people's minds." I pretended those little digs rolled right off me. They didn't. Everyone stuck. So I escaped into computers and code. Programming was fair. If you messed up, it told you straight. Fix it, and it worked. At home, nothing I did ever worked, no matter how hard I tried. Then I met Caleb. Junior year, late night in the campus lab. He laughed easy, spoke soft, and actually listened like my words weighed something. For a girl raised to take up as little space as possible, being around him felt like stepping into sunshine after a long winter. He noticed stuff my family never did. How neat my notes were, the way I solved problems, how I moved through the world quietly, but on purpose. When I brought him home to meet everyone, Dad gave him a solid handshake. Harper smiled her perfect polite smile. But Mom's eyes lit up in a way I didn't understand yet. Not at Caleb the person, at what he could become. Success. Status. A trophy that could still be molded. "She needs someone steady," Mom said later, stirring her tea like she was dropping wisdom. "Maybe he'll pull you out of that dark little coding hole." It sounded nice. It wasn't. I missed the early red flags. Harper putting in extra effort with her outfits whenever Caleb came over. Mom pulling him aside to chat about his future, his dreams, his 5-year plan. I even ignored the first time Caleb mentioned Harper with a little too much warmth in his voice. Because for once, I desperately wanted something in my life to work out right. But deep down, part of me already knew. In that house, nothing good ever stayed mine for long. I can't pinpoint the exact moment everything flipped. Maybe it was Caleb blowing off study dates with weak excuses. Maybe it was him flipping his phone face down the second I walked into a room. Or maybe it was the morning he casually said, "Your mom's lemon chicken is unreal," like it was no big deal. I went still. "You were at my parents' this week?" He blinked, stalling. "Oh yeah, your mom just wanted to talk." Nothing major. My mom hadn't asked me about my classes in months. But suddenly she had time to cook for my boyfriend. That was the first twist of dread in my gut. It got worse when I found a gas receipt in his car from a station right outside Boston. He told me he was in New York that day. I sat in the passenger seat holding that warm little piece of paper, every alarm bell in my body screaming. When I asked him about it, he gave me a tight smile. "Your mom needed help with something. She said you were swamped." No big deal. Swamped. Her favorite excuse to shove me aside. Then he added, soft, "Harper's been having a rough time. She could use a friend." Like Harper was made of spun glass and I was the wrecking ball. One weekend I couldn't take the questions anymore. I told Caleb I was staying on campus to finish a project and drove home without warning. I needed to see for myself. Walked into the house at 9 that night. Living room lights on, voices floating down the hall, low, warm, way too comfortable. Harper's laugh. Caleb's voice. Mom's satisfied little hum. I stopped dead in the hallway and peeked around the corner. There they were. Harper practically glued to his side, Mom sitting in her throne chair like she was blessing a royal engagement, and Caleb stuck in the middle looking torn, but already halfway convinced. She's stronger, Caleb, Mom was saying, voice dripping honey. She's better suited for the life you want. Emma's always buried in work. She chooses screens over people. Harper gets real connection. Harper dropped her eyes all shy and sweet. I just want you to be happy, Caleb. My chest split open without a sound. Mom kept going. Emma will land on her feet no matter what. She's got that career drive. But Harper needs someone solid. Someone headed places. Someone who fits the picture. Fits. Like I was the wrong-shaped piece she tried to force and finally given up on. Caleb didn't push back. Didn't defend me. Didn't even see me standing there watching my whole world tilt. The truth burned worse than the betrayal itself. This wasn't random. This was orchestrated. And I was the only one not invited to the meeting. I don't remember walking out. 1 second I was frozen in the hallway. The next I was in my car gripping the wheel until my knuckles went white. Boston's cold night air fogged the windows while everything inside me boiled. I didn't go back to campus. I just drove. Highways, streetlights, anything to put distance between me and them. When I finally stopped at a rest area, the adrenaline crashed and the pain hit hard, embarrassing, complete. My own mother hadn't just meddled. She'd swapped me out. And Caleb just sat there and let her. I called my best friend Sophie. Soph, I need you. She didn't ask questions. On my way. Hours later, I was throwing clothes in a duffel while she stood in the doorway. When she finally spoke, it was calm, certain. You gotta get out of this whole zip code. M. For good. She was right. 2 days later, I withdrew from my last semester. Professors begged me to stay. Advisors tried every angle. But the truth was simple. I couldn't breathe in that city anymore. The betrayal didn't just break my heart. It shattered the fantasy I'd been clinging to. That if I was good enough, quiet enough, smart enough, they'd finally pick me. Instead, they showed me exactly who they were. I sold what I could, packed one suitcase, and moved clear across the country with zero plan, except forward. Seattle hit me like a different planet. Rain, pine trees, strangers who didn't know my mom or my sister, or that the girl ordering coffee with shaking hands had just watched her life explode. Sophie's cousin let me crash on her pull-out couch for a few weeks. I'd lie awake listening to the fridge hum, feeling like the biggest failure on earth. But pain's weird like that. It cracks you open and makes room for something stronger. One random morning the sun hit the lake outside the window and something tiny but stubborn inside me said, get up. So I did. Found a therapist, Dr. Torres, who saw right through my I'm fine routine and kept pushing until everything poured out ugly and honest. They didn't choose you because they refused to see your value, she told me once. That's on them, not you. I finished my degree in Seattle, got jobs, built routines, made real friends. It was slow, messy work, but it was mine. Anger turned into clarity. Clarity turned into power. And power turned into something that felt dangerously close to peace. Peace didn't last forever, though. Years later, Dad sent a quiet text asking if they could visit. Everything I'd left behind started creeping back. They showed up on a drizzly Seattle afternoon. Mom stepped out of the car first like she already owned the block. Harper behind her in oversized sunglasses. Caleb last, hanging back. Eyes anywhere but mine. Dad climbed out slower. Thinner, shoulders curled in, searching for my face. My husband Alex stood next to me in the doorway, calm and solid, and I watched Mom's face flicker. She hadn't expected him. Hadn't expected this version of me. Emma, she said with her fake neighborhood smile. Well, look at this beautiful life you've built. As if she hadn't torched the first one. Come in, I said, stepping aside. Inside our house. High ceilings, lake views, warm wood, everything chosen on purpose, she couldn't hide her shock. For once, I had home field advantage. We sat down to dinner. Dad quiet, Harper sneaking jealous glances, Caleb shrinking every time Alex opened his mouth. Mom, of course, tried to run the conversation like a tour guide. Then Alex asked the question that broke the ice wide open, calm, polite, lethal. So, when was the last time you were all together in one room? Mom straightened. The engagement party, obviously. My stomach dropped. Harper froze. Caleb choked on his water. Alex nodded like that made perfect sense. Must have been tough on Emma. Silence fell hard. Mom's smile went razor thin. Well, Emma just wasn't emotionally ready for that chapter. A chapter. Not sabotage. Not betrayal. A chapter. I opened my mouth, but Harper got there first. Mom, stop. Mom whipped her head around. Excuse me. Harper set her fork down, hands shaking. We're not doing this. Not here. Mom's voice dropped dangerously low. Harper. But Harper was done. No. She deserves the truth. And then, like a dam finally giving way, everything poured out. Mom didn't just talk to Caleb once, Harper said, looking straight at me. Really looking for maybe the first time ever. She called him over and over. Told him you were too focused on school. Too ambitious. That you weren't serious about a future together. My stomach bottomed out. She even told him you were seeing someone else, Harper whispered. That you were planning to dump him. I started to protest. Harper cut me off gently. I know you weren't. She had me send fake texts from your old phone, so it looked like they came from you. Tears filled her eyes. I was stupid. I believed her when she said you'd be fine, that you didn't need him like I did. Alex reached for my hand under the table, steady as ever. I looked at Caleb. And you just believed her? His face went red, eyes glassy. I was an idiot. I trusted the wrong people. I should have come to you. Instead, I let your mom write our story. Dad set his glass down hard enough to rattle. Evelyn, is this true? Mom lifted her chin. I was protecting my daughters. Any mother would have done the same. I laughed, soft and sharp. No, you protected your image. You made Harper look perfect and kept me small. Harper wiped her face. There's more. She told Caleb his career would go further with someone more polished, someone who could work a room. Useful. Like I was a liability on a resume. Dad looked like he'd been punched. Evelyn, how could you? Alex leaned forward, voice calm but ice cold. What you did was emotional abuse. You didn't just tank her relationship. You tried to tank her whole future because it didn't match the picture in your head. Mom's voice shook with outrage. I will not be spoken to like this in my daughter's house. I smiled, then listened for once. The room was electric. I looked at each of them, parents, sister, ex, who used to be my whole world, and tore it apart brick by brick. You cost me years, I said. You cost me my last semester, my confidence, my sense of home. You taught me I wasn't worth choosing. So I chose myself, and I built this. I gestured around the room. Without any of you. Mom scoffed, but it came out weak. You walked away from us. No, I said. You pushed me off a cliff. I just learned how to fly. Dad's voice cracked. Emma, I'm so sorry. I saw it happening and stayed quiet. That's on me. He looked at Mom, really looked, for maybe the first time in decades. This stops today. Alex stood beside me like a shield. I met their eyes again. Remember how you all turned pale the second you saw my husband? This is why. Not because of who he is, but because he's proof of the life I built without you controlling it. Harper let out a broken sob. Caleb stared at the floor. Mom grabbed her purse. We're leaving. Dad didn't budge. I'm staying. Emma and I have a lot to fix. Mom stared at him like she didn't recognize the man in front of her, then stormed out. Harper paused at the door. I'm done letting her run my life, she whispered. I want to make this right, if you'll let me. Caleb was last. I'll never stop being sorry, he said quietly. But I'm glad you found someone who actually sees you. Then he left too. The door shut. Silence. Alex squeezed my hand. You okay? For the first time in years, I really was. Dad stayed the rest of the week. We walked the lake trail, sat on the deck at sunset, and talked. No masks, no walking on eggshells, just raw honesty. One morning he watched the light bounce off the water and said, I spent so long avoiding waves I forgot how to protect the people I love most. I can't fix the past, M. But I'd like to be your dad from here on out, if you'll have me. I took his hand. That's all I ever wanted. We stayed close after he went home. Weekly calls, real talks, mending what we could. When he passed a few months later, I flew back for the funeral. Harper stood next to me. She'd left Caleb, got her own tiny apartment, and a regular job. Nothing flashy but hers. For the first time, she looked like a person choosing her own life instead of performing someone else's script. "Thank you for giving me another shot," she whispered. I smiled. We're all rewriting the old stories. You get a new page, too. Mom stayed on the edges, polite, cold, powerless now. And that distance felt like the sweetest victory. Back in Seattle, hand in hand with Alex, living a life I built from scratch with my own two hands, I finally got it. I didn't win because they lost. I won because I healed. These days when I look back, I don't dwell on the betrayal. I think about the rebuild. I think about the woman I became once I stopped waiting to be picked and started picking myself. My mom's schemes didn't destroy me, they revealed me. And this life I have now is living proof. If you've ever survived family betrayal or had to start over from nothing, drop your story in the comments. I read every single one. And please hit subscribe so you never miss what's next. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's becoming everything they swore you could never be.